Hello and welcome to a special edition of OC News. OC News is produced by broadcast journalism students on the campus of Cal State Fullerton. I'm Crystal Grange.
And I'm Patrick Alog. Hurricane Katrina has affected hundreds of thousands in the Gulf Coast. How does this affect us in Orange County?
Plus, a local student went to Louisiana. She will discuss her experience.
Also, how has the media treated this story? And finally, how prepared are we for the big one? We will have experts in studio to discuss preparedness.
But before that, Cal State Fullerton student Heather Lacayo went to Slidell, Louisiana to see relatives in the hurricane-torn area. Lacayo was not planning on taking her camera, but she did, and here's what she experienced in Louisiana.
104.1 Hallelujah FM.
Well, the reason that my fiance and I decided to go to Louisiana is that that's actually where he's from. He grew up in Slidell, which was one of the harder hit areas. And so we packed up a truckload full of supplies for his family and drove across the states to go help out. Watching the news, I expected to see a lot of devastation. I expected to see, trees over and flooding and things along those lines. But the interesting thing is that when you're at home watching the news, you have the ability to turn your face and turn your gaze away from the screen. And when you look around, you're in your own environment and things are normal. And then you look back at the screen and you look away and you look back. But when you're there in the thick of it, everywhere you look, there's devastation. You know, you see a tree through the roof of a house and you turn to look the other direction and there's a power line down, covering a car. We got a chainsaw. Knowing that trees were down in the roadways and, in houses and just in the way in general. When we arrived in Slidell, we had already been affected, I think, by the devastation because I want to say an hour to an hour and a half before, just driving in on the freeway, we saw huge trees downed from the hurricane, from winds, and I don't think that stuff was necessarily from any flooding. It was just definitely high winds. So the highways were just littered before we even got to our destination. So it was overwhelming. I think once we actually got into Slidell, we were definitely overwhelmed just because things there were they were destroyed. The actual residents were not in high numbers at that point. So as far as like the mood of the residents, it was, for the people that we saw, it was very subdued. And I think everybody was kind of in a state of shock because though they've been through hurricane season every year ever, they haven't felt the impact like they did this year. There were National Guardsmen and Marines that had been flown in from South Carolina who were there to help out and help people clean up things. Hey, are you guys marking the houses and stuff now? No. Oh, what are you guys doing?
We're doing cleanup.
You guys are doing cleanup with like your sawing stuff down?
Yeah, we don't have chainsaws today. We're supposed to later this week. But right now we're just doing what we can.
Wow. Where'd you guys come from?
Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Wow. Awesome that you guys are here. Thanks.
Anything we can do to help?
Thanks. Hey guys.
Yeah, how about that?
Once in Slidell, the Red Cross had a presence there. They had a truck out and they were handing out water and items for people. The Salvation Army across the street in another parking lot was handing things out as well. There are always good movements in the midst of tragedy. There are always good things that happen. So we got power now?
Yes, you do.
Hey, so how much of Slidell has power now?
Probably about 40%.
Nice. How many hours you guys been working?
18 hours a day.
You guys rule.
7 days a week.
You got all the lines up everywhere too that are like, are there other areas that are not going to get power for a while?
It's going to be a while on the rural areas. Back here, it's all back lot and we have to rebuild everything back here. And that's going to take some time. There's whole neighborhoods out. Y'all the first to get it.
Wow, thank you.
Right.
You have power! Later in the week, when I was out driving to one of the homes that we were there to help out with, the Red Cross truck actually honked at me when I drove past and hollered, hey, we have hot food and we have hot food for you. And I was like, no, I'm here to help too. And so we kind of fought over who was going to help. And so that was kind of nice. It's really difficult too. Somebody had asked me if we had, before and after pictures of some things. And the places that we saw that were leveled The before pictures would have been people's pictures of their own homes, and the homes are now destroyed, and so there are no pictures of before for them because there's nothing there now. So I think that impacted me in a huge way. To me, it was such an important thing that people kind of look out for other people, that to see that some people maybe don't have that perspective. That's the thing that maybe changed me a little bit, is just kind of in, you know, who I choose to spend my time with, because I'd rather choose it to spend my time with people that care about other people.
Lacayo was affected by what she saw in Louisiana, but the hurricane affected the Gulf Coast residents so much more.
Hurricane Katrina showed how unprepared some were for disaster. Here to tell us about how Orange County can be prepared for disaster is Santa Ana Fire Captain and Emergency Manager Steve Snyder and Public Education Officer Mary Melendres. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Now, if Orange County were to have a big disaster, what steps would the Fire Department of Santa Ana and other cities take to relieve residents?
Well, you're fortunate living in Orange County because we have several USAR teams, or urban search and rescue teams. For instance, the FEMA team that went to Louisiana that just arrived back today is a good example. We have 4 of those teams in residence within Orange County that don't leave, so they're already here on site and they already have the equipment. So you'd actually be in very good shape as far as firefighting equipment and personnel. We're way ahead of the game as far as the whole country is concerned.
Now, one of the problems I noticed in Louisiana was sort of like the bureaucracy, like who was actually in charge. What would happen if there was a disaster here? Who would be the head person? Would it be like the mayor, or would it be like the governor, or could it be the feds taking control?
Well, the way the FEMA system works, it starts at the local level. We are the ones that initiate it, and the mayor of Louisiana would, or of New Orleans would have to do the same thing. He would notify his area, Orange County operational area, for instance, for us, which is up at Loma Ridge off of San Diego Canyon. So the mayor would notify me, we'd open up the Emergency Operations Center, then we'd notify the Orange County system, and they would notify the region, and it goes from step to step up to the state, and then the state has to request FEMA funds and help. And you have to go through that order, the steps you have to go through.
But
When the evacuation order was issued for residents in Louisiana, not all of them left because they didn't have means of transportation. What would be done for Orange County residents if they were told to evacuate and if they didn't have transportation?
We have a large contingency of buses here in Orange County. We have the Orange County Transit System, for instance. We've already have contingency plans to use those buses in case of evacuations. If it's an earthquake in Orange County, we have a lot of problems with bridges. Orange County has a lot of freeways, and either you have a bridge over the freeway or under the freeway, and where those bridges are standing is what we're going to have to figure out the routes that we take. So we can't have a preset route in every incident. We have to check to see which bridges are open, and we do a triage as a fire department to find out which bridges are open, and then we'll have transportation corridors to do that with those buses.
What immediate response would residents see if they were trapped in their homes from an earthquake?
You'll see all the fire engines within Santa Ana, for instance. I can speak for Santa Ana for sure. What we do is we do a windshield survey or a triage. All the fire engines and fire trucks leave their fire stations and drive all of the neighborhoods. If you see them, it'll happen immediately after an earthquake, for instance, and we go out and evaluate. It's like triaging patients. Which one is the worst case scenario? We'll respond to the worst case scenarios first, and then start taking care of the lesser or minor emergencies throughout the city after that. So we have a triage, in fact, and we report that to the chief, and he decides which ones we take care of as individual units as we're out on the road.
now, how long will this all take effect? Because the problem in Louisiana was it took like a couple days. Will it?
It takes 10 minutes for us, or 20 minutes for us to complete a triage survey or the windshield survey. Another reason we do this is to get all the fire engines out of the fire station so they're not trapped within the structure. So we're out and about and on the road, and the paramedic units stay within the fire stations that they're assigned to. So the trucks and engines go out on the roads, and the paramedic units stay within the station so people can come to the fire station and get help right at the fire station. And it's a very good place to respond to. If your house is damaged or whatever, go to the fire station to get help, especially if the phones are down.